Okay, at 7:05, we're going to go ahead and get started. I don't have my usual wine glass bell today, so today I'm going to be using a very small Russian dowel bell to start the meeting because we are in Russia, and I want to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas. Some of you we will see again before the holiday. Some of you we may not see, so we want to extend our best wishes for your happy holidays to all of you around the world, wherever you may be. This evening, we have a pretty full of agenda. We have a lot of things that we want to accomplish tonight, including the fact that we have a very exciting guest speaker who's going to be with us. And we have a new member that we are going to induct in our organization tonight, which will be very nice. So we're going to start talking about the agenda here briefly. I'm going to be making some comments after we do our four-way test oath, which we're going to do in a moment. And then the secretary will have some comments to make. The keynote speaker, David, will be on board and speak to us and tell us about his organization and his watches. And it sounds very interesting. And oops, there's a mistake up there. It says Past Ambassador Quinn. He won't be here tonight. Sorry about that. And then we'll talk about our projects that we have. And we got some more news about our ongoing project, the new one we started. And we'll pass that out and we'll talk about our next meeting because we've got a very good speaker coming again next week. So that's sort of the agenda that we have for this evening. So what I need to do now is I need to go to screen share. And I would ask everybody, please turn on your microphone. Everyone, please turn on your microphone so we can hear you. I'm going to read the four-way test. And what I'd ask for you to do is I ask for you to please repeat it after I say it. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. The first one is it the truth?
Is it the truth? Is the truth?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's just something that for anybody who might be new with us tonight, that is something that we started about 2 months ago. We just want to keep that in everybody's mind about that four-way test, because if more people run their operations and do their business with those things in mind, it's going to be a lot easier for everybody. And I think we're going to have happier customers and we're going to have better people who are doing the selling. And as you interact with people between Rotary clubs, between members inside of an individual Rotary club, if we think about the goodwill of everybody, we're going to be much, much better off. My comments for this evening, my comments for this evening is, it is the holiday season. And I know a lot of people are feeling down and so forth because of the season, but we need to be more positive. We are positive of several different things. One, we're positive Christmas will come. I don't know what it's going to be like, but Christmas will arrive on the 25th all over the world, sometime sooner in some other countries. Two, we know that someday, we don't know when, this pandemic will be gone and the sun will shine again and we'll be able to get together. We will be able to get back together again sometime. We just don't know when, excuse me. And three, we know that you have a choice of either being positive or negative in your life, in your words, and in your actions. You have a choice. Nobody can force you to be negative. And I would offer to you, if you stop and think about who is the worst boss or supervisor that you ever have had, we've all had at least one bad one. Think about that worst one, the meanest one, the baddest one, the one who didn't care about you. Think about that person for a moment. You know who that was? You all know, right? You got your own name? Now, what about the best boss you ever had? The kindest, the most cooperative, the one who supported you, the one who helped you, the one who helped you get over some of your problems, your best boss. You got that name? So you got two names, right? The bad guy and the good guy. Now, you're a supervisor or a leader, and you'll be leaving your place someday. When you do, what is going to be your legacy? Will it be like the good supervisor or will it be like the bad supervisor? How will you be remembered? So I offer, think about a positive attitude most of the time. Try to use it at work and with your families at home. And all of this is going to be a lot better if you keep that positive attitude. No one can force you to have a negative attitude. So I strongly suggest you stay on the positive side. I'm going to turn it over to Randall for the secretary's minutes. And then after we do, we're going to do the induction for Rami. I'd like to ask, before we do, I'd like to ask Rami, you got your certificate you need to read tonight? You have that with you? Rami? Microphone, please.
The one and the email, right?
Yeah, you want the one Randall sent you to read tonight. You have that, right?
Yeah, let me fetch it. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Randall, what secretary notes do we have, please?
Okay, thank you very much, President Michael. Let me just share my few notes here for us. I hope everybody sees that now. So very quickly, first note is an unhappy note. Michael, you are aware of this, others may not be aware of this, but Heidi Kuhn, who was our speaker a couple of sessions ago, was back in the hospital last week and she had double pneumonia, and that's not a very good thing. I think she's out again, but she and her whole family, her husband, her son, her daughter, they've all had COVID and they're dealing with it. She went back in the hospital shortly after she gave a presentation to Frank Yee, who's one of our donors. So she had announced in the meeting when she joined us that she was going to give him an award. And there was a quite formal presentation last week on the 3rd of December with Ambassador Quinn being the sort of co-host of that event. There is a video about that, which I'll share if you want to see who Frank is. He was very pleased to be able to receive that award, and he was honored for his donations. But we wrote some, I forwarded this message from her Facebook onto our club group Facebook, if anybody wants to respond to her. And let's see if we can, my mouse has disappeared now. Something funny's happening here. Hello, mouse. Okay, there we go. Second point, you'll see on the right, there is a symbol that's, I think all of you know what that symbol is. That's a symbol which is near and dear to Treasurer Andreas's heart. We will be, we may not have another formal meeting, but we are going to be invoiced by Rotary International on the 1st of January. So 1st of January, Rotary automatically invoices us for all of our members of record, and the club is required to pay quickly those dues. At the same time, the district is going to invoice us. So we have, the club has to pay money shortly, and we need all of our members to pay their outstanding dues, and also please pay Andreas for the second half of the year. So our second half of the year runs from January till June. Third point, thank you very, very much to Antonina. So she's convinced past International President Wilf Wilkinson to join us on the 13th of January. Where we can't get any higher. I think maybe we can ask the Pope, or maybe we could ask possibly soon to be past President Donald Trump to join us. But we have managed to have a vice president. We've had a director, international director speak to our club this year, and now we'll have a past Rotary International president. So that's pretty impressive, I think. And we need everybody to come, invite your Rotarian friends to join us on the 13th of January, and please come armed with some good questions. And then next week, we have a really powerful speaker that Michael has arranged. His name is Deepak Justin. He's, I've seen a couple of his videos. It's quite impressive. He's got a very, very high energy, and he's going to tell us something which should be very, very powerful. And that's it. Over to you, Michael. Back to you, President Michael.
All right. Thank you very much, Randall. I appreciate that. We have been extremely lucky with the speakers that we have had before. As Randall said, district directors, vice president, now past president, unheard of having that many people in a short period of time come to individual clubs. And we could not have done it if we were not online, if we were not in Zoom and so forth. We could not have all these people come to us live. So it's definitely beneficial having Zoom for some things. somebody has got their microphone open and speaking going on. So if you would please shut your microphones off if you're not in the speaking mode. Okay, we have next on our agenda. Let me move to the next item here, please. 1 second. All right, where's it at here? All right. You can see on the screen that there's a gentleman, at least for me, he's on the bottom row. His name is Rami Saeed. Rami Saeed, excuse me, Rami, I mispronounced your name, sorry, Rami Saeed. And he joined us this past summer and came to meetings starting around September, every week, and very, very interested individual. He has moved to St. Petersburg. He is a banker and he is very, very energetic. And he's also, by the way, joined our Toastmasters group. So he's in that also. But the thing is that Rami wants to give back to the community. He realizes that here in St. Petersburg, there's a lot of opportunity to do that. So he wants to participate in that. So I'm going to read something. And then after I read it, I'm going to ask Rami to give us the oath of membership, Rami. So let me speak first and invite you. Fellow Rotarians, it is the duty of our Rotary Club to add new members from time to time so that we may not only increase our usefulness and influence as a club, but also to extend this spirit of Rotary throughout the local community. Today, I welcome to our ranks and admit the member, Rami Saeed. Rotarian Saeed, you have been elected to membership in this club because of your fellow members believe that you to be a worthy representative of our calling and also to possess qualities that will permit you to exemplify in your public, business, social, and private life the true spirit of Rotary. Rami, I would ask you, please, if you will, please read the oath as it was sent to you by Randall. Do you have that?
Yes.
Please read that.
I, Rami Saeed, having been admitted as a new member of the Rotary Club Saint Petersburg International, RI District 223, do hereby solemnly swear upon my honor to faithfully and willingly discharge the duties and responsibilities of my office, fully conscious of the important obligations which I have voluntarily committed to assume. I further pledge to uphold and defend the Constitution and bylaws of the Rotary Club of Saint Petersburg International and that of Rotary International, ever putting into practice Rotary's motto, service above self, and applying the four-way test as the basis of all my actions to help advance the object of Rotary. All of these, I pledge and I promise to do and observe to the best of my ability without any mental reservation or purpose evasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Rami. I have a little bit more here before we are finished. I wish to impress upon you that you have been admitted to the Rotary Club of St. Petersburg International, but also to the Worldwide Association. And by virtue of your membership in this club, you will be welcomed into the fellowship of Rotary clubs around the world. The honor and privilege of Rotary membership carries with it duties and obligations. You will be expected to attend club meetings regularly, to perform your share of club service, and to place your knowledge and talents at the disposal of clubs in its task of carrying out the principles of Rotary in the daily life to the community. Normally, I would ask everybody to stand. I understand that's not possible for everybody, but I would ask you to stand if you can. I am standing. Thank you. Rotarian Saeed, in the name of the Rotary Club St. Petersburg International, I now formally admit you to membership in this club. We will present you with the official lapel pin of our emblem at our first live offline meeting. Fellow Rotarians, I commend you to our newest member, Rotarian Rami Saeed, and charge all of you to welcome him. Rami, congratulations. Thank you all very much. You may be seated, those of you who are standing. Thank you very much. Rami, welcome to the club. You've been coming here for several months and observing and wanting to participate. Well, now you're in, and as soon as we get a chance to put you into one of the projects, we will do that. I'll be talking about projects a little bit later, And we're looking forward to you bringing some additional life to the club because we're trying
Thank
to
you.
grow and try to get a little bit bigger. So,
Thank you.
all right, very, very good. Now, next item on the agenda, we have to move on. Otherwise, we're not going to get done before midnight. Michael, you're a little bit slow tonight. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just having a slow day. I'm not sure. Secretary notes. Here we go. That's the one I want. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker for this evening. Our guest speaker is going to be David Henderson-Stewart. And he did something unusual. Not many people are going to do what he chose to do. He decided that he wanted to do something different in life. So he decided that he was going to renew something that had almost died. He's going to tell us about that. He is currently the managing director at Raketa Watch Factory, producing and marketing one of Russia's leading luxury brands. They will produce an exciting story of the launch of their new limited edition Raketa Leopard 24 submariner's watch. David will also share some stories of his journey to rebuild one of Russia's oldest companies that was first established by Peter the Great in 1721. So it's a little bit older than me, and there's not many things that are older than me. And the reposition of Raketa watches on the world stage and how his company has coped so far this year during the pandemic. We know every company around the world has had a difficult time this year, but can you imagine trying to revitalize a very old company, get it going again, and doing that all during the pandemic at the same time? That sounds like an awful, awful big task. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause as we welcome David Henderson-Stewart. David, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great honor and a pleasure to be able to join your club and to share my experience. And I'm doubly happy because our manufacturer is in Saint Petersburg. So I assume that at least a few of you have already heard of the Raketa Watch Factory. So let me tell you a bit about myself. I live in Russia for I moved to Russia 17 years ago. My father's English, my mother's French. And I was trained as a lawyer. And very quickly, so I moved to Russia as a lawyer, and I fell in love with this country, and I very quickly understood that there were incredible opportunities in Russia, and I really wanted to do something else and to work in a law firm and help big international corporations. I wanted to do something for myself, something that I could be proud of, something that would be useful for the community, and also something good. I knew absolutely nothing about watches. Like when I say nothing, it's like zero. I could not tell the difference between a quartz watch, which is a watch with a battery, and a mechanical watch. I remember when after moving into, after joining the Raketa project, I still didn't know the difference. And one of the watchmakers one day explained the difference to me. I was very ashamed of myself, but that's just to tell you how little I knew about watches. The reason I got interested in Raketa is because I was very surprised when I moved to Russia that Russia had no brands. Like we've all heard of Kalashnikov, Gazprom, Aeroflot, but Russia had no luxury brands or high-end brands, and that's always surprised me coming from the West, because Russia has. I always thought Russia had the potential to have luxury or high-end brands because most of these brands are based on tradition, legacy, culture, history, like in France, Hermès, Louis Vuitton. And Russia has all of that. I was surprised, how rich the Russian culture is, how incredible, its history is, but it had no brands. And I quickly understood that the reason for this was because Russia's history was very chaotic and very destructive of brands. We all think of Fabergé, this incredible jeweler who ran away from Russia during the revolution. That's a very good example. And he continued making jewelry outside Russia, and the brand still exists, but because of many reasons, the brand is not Russian anymore. And I also noticed that a lot of my friends from England and from France traveled to Russia and wanted to buy Soviet watches. And then I discovered that there was something about Soviet watches. A lot of collectors worldwide knew about them. And I started, looking around, and I discovered that the Soviet Union had a lot of very big manufacturers that were very, very famous worldwide and produced millions and millions of watches. Some of you have heard of Palyot, Slava, but most of these factories don't exist anymore because they disappeared. They didn't survive these difficult times of the perestroika, the 90s, very terrible times when whole bunches of the Russian economy were destroyed. But there was one factory left in Saint Petersburg, a Russian friend told me. So I took the plane, knocked at the door, and visited something that struck me as quite incredible. There were only like 20 very old people left working in very terrible conditions. It was very cold in winter. But they still continued working just based on an incredible enthusiasm. And I also saw that they kept hold of their line of production. And I also quickly discovered that they had incredible models that were very iconic and that were collectible, iconic models throughout the world by collectors. And I also discovered that they had an incredible history because Raketa, the manufacturer, was created 300 years ago by Peter the Great. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. History, its own manufacture, iconic models. This is like a gem that you can just pick up. You just have to clean it up, polish it, and do something with it. So very naively, I threw myself into this project, thinking, basically, the funny thing is I knew nothing about watches. So my technical audit was just, I picked a watch at the factory, it did TikTok, and I thought, wow, it works. So I'll just have to do a bit of redesigning and it'll work. Unfortunately, the reality was much different. I very quickly discovered that making mechanical watches is incredibly complicated. And actually, there's a reason why so few countries can make mechanical watches. Basically, there's Switzerland, Germany, Japan, they have Seiko, and Russia. There are no other countries in the world that make mechanical watches. France doesn't make any mechanical watches. There's maybe one watchmaker in England that does them. America doesn't do any mechanical watches. And the reason for this is just terribly complicated. I'm wearing on my wrist 242 components. That some of them are so small that you couldn't even see them with your own eyes. You would need a microscope. And some of the components have tolerances of a micron. A micron is, you take a millimeter and you divide it by 1,000. So it's very, very, very small. And most of the brands that you know in Switzerland do not produce anything. They just do marketing, they design the watch, and they outsource they buy the movement from someone, they buy the case from someone else, and maybe they do the assembly, maybe they don't even do the assembly, they just market the watch. So things turned out to be very, very difficult. So I had to bring in some Swiss consultants, we had to buy a lot of machines, but we kept on going based on incredible enthusiasm because watchmakers are people, it's not considered as a profession. They don't go to work in the morning. For them, it's a passion. Being a watchmaker is being passionate about your work. And all of these old people, they continued working. They were not paid anymore. They just kept on going because they felt they owed a duty to keep this manufacture alive. Hopefully, with the hope that someone would take it over. And it did happen, thank God. Not just me, my family, my friends of friends, they all helped me. And so we did three things. We modernized the production. That was extremely difficult. Because obviously, one could, it's very easy so Swiss consultants who came over, they said, you should buy Swiss machines, and Swiss machines are terribly expensive. So we had to understand how to modernize the manufacture without buying Swiss machines. And we achieved that. And actually, we're very happy to have kept most of our Soviet machines because we still continue producing in an old school manner. And a lot of Swiss watchmakers or Swiss specialists who come and visit our factory, they say, wow, it's incredible. You work like we worked in Switzerland 50 years ago. And don't change that, because making watches is a very human project. It's a very emotional project. And there are a lot of emotions in your factory. You still produce components by hand. Whereas in Switzerland, for example, they use a lot of CNC machines. It's numeric machines. Basically, you have programmers. They write codes, and then the machine produces the component by itself. And so they say, please don't modernize more than that, your factory. This is amazing. The second thing we did is we repositioned the brand. Basically, Raketa watches 10 years ago were very cheap watches that you could buy on the Nevsky Prospect. Basically, for tourists, they had a very, very kitsch design with Lenin and Stalin. Basically, it dropped very, very low in the 90s and 2000. So I very quickly understood that this was something very unique, and luxury is about uniqueness. We took a very bold decision for that time, was to say Raketa is a luxury brand, and no one apart from us believed in that. And all of my Russian friends said, David, we like you very much, but you're totally crazy. We'll never buy your Russian watches, because it's totally uncool to have a Russian watch. We all want Swiss watches. It was a time, for those of you who lived in Russia 10 years ago, it was still a time when the Russians were a bit ashamed of their country. Most of the people wanted to move to the West, wanted to wear, Western brands, and Russia and quality were, in their minds, totally incompatible. And we took the very bold decision to keep the factory. I remember the moment, when I started to understand that the production of mechanical watches was so difficult, I thought maybe we should do like everyone else, just shut down the factory, keep the brand, outsource, the production to China or to Switzerland, and just assemble something in Russia and pretend that it's Russian made. But we also understood that we would kill, by doing that, the soul of the project, and the soul of the project really is the manufacture. And we decided to keep the factory. And in the short term, this was very difficult, and it is still very difficult. But in the long run, it creates much more value to the brands, I think, to really produce in-house and in Russia, because people understand that it's all true. We don't lie about anything. When we say that Raketa watches were worn by Gagarin, it's true. When we say that Russian watches were worn by submariners, it's all true. When we say that we produce our own watches in-house in St. Petersburg, it's true. And we show it to everyone. And this is very important in terms of brand building. And the third thing we did was to create a distribution network that was in line with our new positioning. So we now have our own shops. We have our own shop in St. Petersburg. We have our own shop in Moscow. We also sell through the internet, and not only Russia, but worldwide. So what I will show you today is the results of 10 years of very, very difficult work. But the most difficult part of the work was basically to persuade the Russians that Russian watches were interesting, and that Russian watches were worth 60,000 rubles. Because this is something that shocked a lot the Russians, that Russian watches, a lot of people, when we started, said, hey, Russian watches, and that's the funny thing about Russia. You see that on the one hand, the Russians are very patriotic, and they always defend their country whenever you criticize it. But the same Russians said, hey, it's ridiculous. Russian watch cannot be worth more than, 10,000 rubles maximum. And I said, and we always did a lot of propaganda to explain it's not true. There are more than 200 components. We make most of them in-house. It's very complicated, very small tolerances. There are no batteries, no chips, no electronics in this watch. They carry very strong values linked to the cosmos or to Russian avant-garde art. And it's very complicated to make these watches. So it's impossible to do something cheaper. And I'm very proud that today we don't get these negative comments anymore. We had a lot of hate messages, negative criticism about what we did, and we don't get that in Russia anymore. And 80% of our buyers are Russians now. And to a certain extent, we think it's thanks to our, what we call propaganda. It's also due to the geopolitical context that, the sanctions and so on, but it's a lot to do also about our endless explanations about what we do. And our manufacturer is open to visit. Anyone can come and visit our manufacturer. Over the past 10 years, we organize a lot of press tours. So we invite people to come and we show them what we do. And especially the Swiss people, at the beginning, they said, hey, it's impossible. You cannot make your own mechanical movement. Even we don't do it, it's too complicated. And then I invite them and I show them and they say, wow, it's incredible. In Switzerland, Rolex does it and a few other very high brands make their own mechanical movement, but that's it. 95% of the brands that in Switzerland do not make their own mechanical movement. They buy them somewhere else. So today I'm going to talk to you about the Leopard watch, and I'm very happy to have the opportunity to tell you about the Leopard watch because it's very symbolic. It's the result of 10 years of very difficult work. It's an incredible watch. And on the other hand, I'm ashamed to say that it's sold out. So I'm going to talk to you about a watch that we've run out of stock because we never sold so many pieces of a single model in such a short period of time. Basically, we launched the Leopard watch 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. In 5 days, we sold 150 pieces and we have nothing left. So we're producing some more. So this is a very good news on the one hand, very bad news because it's Christmas period and we can't sell anymore. So this watch is an incredible success outside Russia and in Russia. And if you allow me, I will share my screen. Right. I hope everyone sees my screen. Okay, so this is the watch. And this watch is very symbolic of what we do. First of all, it's all made in-house in Saint Petersburg, in your city. In Petersburg, 5 minutes walks away from the palace. In a manufacturer where we have now approximately 100 watchmakers. Most of them are young people. So when I say young people, it's not necessarily 20-year-old boys or girls. It's people who don't come from the watch industry because there are no watchmaking schools anymore in Russia. So we have to hire young people and train them ourselves. So we created our own watchmaking school and we've kept all of the old people to continue transferring the know-how to the younger generations. So it's in-house manufactured in St. Petersburg. And it's a watch for submariners. Now, this is very important because Raketa is the only, to my knowledge, watch factory that's next to the sea. We're 200 meters away from the sea. And therefore, Raketa always had a tradition of making watches for Soviet submariners and Russian seamen. So we continue this legacy by making this watch. And Raketa always did, in particular, watches with a 24-hour dial. So maybe you've noticed, there are 24 hours on this dial instead of the usual 12 hours. So if you read the time now on my screen, it's going to be 10 to 4 o'clock in the morning. If it were 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the hour hand would be pointing towards 16, you see? Now, this 24-hour movement, so these hands are powered by mechanical movements, which I will show you now. Now, we're so proud of the mechanical movement that we show it in the back. So we have an open case back. This mechanical movement is a 24-hour mechanical movement. It was developed in the 60s for Soviet polar explorers because it's a profession in the Arctic or Antarctic. During 6 months of the year, it's daylight, and during 6 months of the year, it's night. So we know that it's, for example, 3 o'clock in the afternoon because we look through the window and I see it's daylight, so I understand it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If it were dark, it would be 3 o'clock in the morning. The polar explorers cannot do that. So they needed a 24-hour movement, and the Raketa factory specially developed for them the 24-hour movement. That was then used for submariners and also for cosmonauts, basically for professions which need 24 hours to distinguish day from night. So submariners always, for Russian submariners, always had Raketa 24-hour movements to help them distinguish day from night under the water. And this was very, very useful. The second incredible and very interesting thing is that we decided to do this watch from a piece of metal from a Russian submarine. Now, Russia does incredible submarines, and the submarine that we chose is this one. So this is quite a famous submarine. It's the NATO designation of the submarine is Akula class. The Russian name of the submarine is Shuka B, I think. So this is a very distinguishable, you can easily identify it because it has this pod at the back. So whenever you see a submarine with this kind of pod at the back, it's an Akula class submarine. Now this submarine was launched in the 80s, and it was a very modern submarine for that time, and it's still used by the Russian Navy. It's an attack submarine. It's very quiet. It has incredible survivability qualities, and the piece of metal that we got came from, every Akula class submarine has its own name. So we got the piece of metal from a submarine that is called the Leopard. So it's a very, very cool name. And the Leopard was built at the end of the 90s and was launched in 90. And so we wanted to find the first commander of the submarine. So we looked very, very hard, and we discovered that the first commander of this submarine still existed, and he lived in Saint Petersburg, in your city. So we invited him to come to the factory. And so he was very proud. He put on his uniform. I'll just show him right now, if I can find his photo. That's him. So this photo was taken in St. Petersburg. So the first time he came to the factory, and every time he came to the factory, basically, he always wore his uniform. So he was very proud of his uniform. He put on all his medals, and he really put in his heart to help us design the watch. He gave us a lot of advice. He helped us to get a piece of metal of the submarine. And basically, he really was with us at every step of the production of the watch and the assembly of the watch. So I can show you a few of the photos where he's with our production. You see? So this is him. This is one of our specialists. And he was very, very much involved in producing this watch. And when the first sample of the watch was assembled and it was given to him, he was very, very emotional. And he said, this is the first time in 30 years that I actually touch my submarine. He literally said my submarine. So that's when I understood that there was a very strong link between commanders and their submarines. So he brought us a lot of humanity to the project. He was very, very much involved, and we're very proud that he, actually a week ago, we got a phone call from for someone who represents all the submariners of this Leopard submarine, and they all want to watch. Unfortunately, we don't have any watches to give to them anymore, so they'll have to wait a bit. So the top part of the case, this part, is made from a piece of metal of the submarine. So it's a piece of metal that comes from the hull of the submarine. We're not allowed to say which part of the submarine it is because it's confidential. So we were asked not to tell, but we did this very beautiful laser engraving, very deep laser engraving, giving the specs of the submarine. And it takes us, just to explain to you how difficult it is, it takes us half an hour to engrave all of this, you see, around this this ring. And so basically you wear on your wrist a piece of a submarine that is currently being modernized in the Russian shipyard called Zvezdochka. And it's in the process of its modernization that we were officially given a piece of metal from this submarine. And every watch is delivered with a certificate authenticating that it's a real piece of metal from this real submarine. Now, the mechanical movement on the back, we're super proud of it because it has this incredible decoration that is nearly practically handmade, and this very beautiful red rotor. The rotor is the component that spins in the movement when you move your wrist, and it automatically winds up the watch, which is particularly useful for submariners. And our mechanical movement is very specific in the sense that it winds up the watch whichever direction the rotor turns, whether it turns in this direction or this direction, it winds the mechanical movement, which is not the case in every watch. And this is particularly useful for submariners because they live in cramped conditions where they don't move as much as we do. So the fact that the rotor winds up the movement in both directions, it doubles the efficiency of the automatic winding system. Now, since we make our own mechanical movements, we can make an incredible decoration on every component of the movement. You just have to imagine that most of the brands, they buy the mechanical movements. So when you buy it, you cannot decorate anymore this piece of metal, for example, or this piece of metal, unless you disassemble all of that, which is very complicated. Since we produce all of these components, we engrave them, we decorate them before assembly. So for us, it's it's quite easy. So this is a very nice, the reason why we did a red rotor is, first of all, I mean, I love the film The Hunt of the Red October, you know, with Sean Connery. To tell you the truth, and you're the only people I tell that was the first reason why we decided to put some red on the movement. The other reason is because the red color is very symbolic to Raketa. Raketa is always written in red, and we use a lot of red. Basically, the second hand is always red on Raketa. Raketa is always written in red, and so basically red is Raketa's color. The other reason why we use red is, I'm sorry, I'm moving a lot my screen, but I'm trying to find the right photo, is this. You see, basically, this watch is a submariner's watch, not only by function, because we have this 24-hour dial, but also by design. Basically, the color of the top of the watch and the color of the bottom of the watch replicates the colors of the submarine, which is black on the top of the hull and red at the bottom of the hull. So on the top of the watch is a black strap, black dial, and at the back of the watch is red lining at the back, you see, red rotor and red also. So we replicate the colors. This is a submarine itself. So in a few years, the Leopard submarine will be finished and it will be relaunched in the water. So that's very, very exciting. It's also a submariner's watch by design. This is another interesting photo. You see, our hands, we use very specific hands. You see very unusual hands. They replicate the hands that you can find on the control panels of the submarine. Sorry, I have this icon that pops up all the time. That's kind of annoying. But if you see this photo was taken on the kind of dial that is in the control panel of the Leopard submarine. So we replicate the hands that you can find in the submarine. This watch is also has another function that is very useful for submariners. You see these lines, the dial, the perimeter of the dial is divided into 6 colors, red color, black, red, black, because the submariners work in 6 watches or shifts. So this allows submariners to keep track of their watches or their shifts, as you call them. And basically, this watch really sold incredibly well. And this is the result of really 10 years of very hard work, where we improved a lot the quality, the design, the storytelling, the photographs, the films. You can go afterwards and watch and look on our website. We did a very cool interview of the captain of this submarine, how we made the watch. We talk a lot about the. I can show you the piece of metal. So this is the raw piece of metal that we get from the shipyard, and these are all the processes that all the steps to make this raw piece of metal into this beautiful ring with this fantastically deep engraving. It says Leopard Project 971, that's the name of the submarine, limited edition 300, один из 300, лимитированная серия, so it's a limited edition of 300 pieces, и атомная подводная лодка. So we had a lot of talks within the factory to decide whether we communicated or not on the fact that it was a nuclear submarine, because, you know, is it politically correct to talk about nuclear powered submarines or not? We decided to, you know, not to hide it, because anyway, if anyone who just does a little research, you'll find it out. So, but we've had a few comments on the forums and on our social media saying, hey, since it's a nuclear powered submarine, how can we be sure that the level of radioactivity is not too high on this watch? But obviously it isn't. We checked. So yeah, and so basically, 2020 was a very difficult year, obviously, because our factory was closed for 2 months because of the pandemic situation. Our shops were closed for 3 months, but nevertheless, we did very well. And once again, it's really the result of 10 years of very difficult work. I just wanted to show you something else, something we're very proud of. The New York Times, which is not known to be very nice with Russia usually, a month ago published, that was in print and online, an incredible article on Raketa called A Quest to Give Russia Luxury Brands. A very, very long article. So they sent a journalist all the way from New York to the factory, and during 2 days, we showed him everything, and they published this incredible article. And this is a very strong recognition of what we do. And every worker at the factory was super proud of this. This is a very strong recognition. And we give a lot of, basically Raketa watches are watches that carry very strong values and have a very strong storytelling. You can find on our website a lot of different models that are linked watches for cosmonauts, because the brand Raketa was created in 1961 when Gagarin flew to space. So in honor of his flight, they created the brand Raketa. It means, for those of you who don't speak Russian, it means a space rocket, Raketa, space rocket. So in the DNA of Raketa, space is very important. So we do watches for cosmonauts, we do watches for submariners, we do watches for polar explorers, we do watches linked to Russian art. You can see behind me, no, I can show you watches for Russian art. So this is a watch that we did in collaboration with the Tretyakov Gallery based on the Black Swerve Malevich. It's sold very, very well. We're also unfortunately out of stock. It's a very bizarre watch because you don't really see the hands. I mean, it's a bit difficult to read the time, I'll just show you. You see, it's black hands on the black dial. A bit difficult to read the time, but the black square of Malevich is the most abstract painting in the world. So we decided to do a very abstract watch that doesn't follow the conventional rules of aesthetic, watch design. We do also watches, but that's an interesting one. You see, I don't know if you see my screen. This is a watch where all the hands go counterclockwise. So if you read the time on this watch, it's 10 past 10. So the hour hand points at 10 and the minute hand points at 10 minutes. So all the hands go counterclockwise. So we are so this is a mechanical movement that we developed in-house 3 years ago. Randall, you tell me when, because I could go on for hours talking about Raketa. So you tell me when I should finish and should stop. But this is very symbolic of Raketa. Basically, Russia is well known to do things differently from the rest of the world. This is very different. This is the only watch in the world where the hands go counterclockwise. And the reason we did that is because Raketa is linked to space. Because some of you may know that, and what I say, you can check on Wikipedia, that all the planets turn around the sun counterclockwise. And even the moon that you can see here turns around the earth counterclockwise. So the natural movement in our solar system is the counterclockwise movement. And we thought, hey, why did someone decide that the hands on the dial should go against the natural movements in our universe? Why not do a watch where the hands will go in harmony with the movement in the solar system? So we decided to do a watch where all the hands will go counterclockwise. So, and we thought, the press would talk about this watch, but no one would ever buy it because it's so complicated to read time. This became our bestseller in Russia and outside Russia for the past 2 years. And this shows you how much people don't really buy watches anymore to read the time. It's more about the emotions that the watch generates or procures, like in terms of beauty or values or history or storytelling. The storytelling of this watch is very, very powerful. And the watch also is very beautiful. And this is the #1 bestseller. It takes you 2 days to get used to get the hang of it. But that's a really, really interesting watch. And let me just finish by showing you the watch that is linked to Russian avant-garde. Yes, this is it. This is one of our bestsellers also very typical of Raketa. So it's very typical of Raketa because everyone in Switzerland or in the rest of the world has always a 12 on the top of the dial. Raketa always has a 0. You see, always a 0. And this goes back to the Soviet times when for some reason, the designers decided to put a 0 instead of a 12. And I asked our watchmakers one day, why did you take this decision? And they said, just it's very practical. Time starts as 0. You don't start counting 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You always start counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's very logical. And the Russians are very practical and logical, and that's the way we do things in Russia. So Raketa always has a 0 instead of a 12. And this is a watch based on Russian avant-garde artistic movement. So the hands are really, really interesting. So this is, the triangle is the hour hand, and the circle is the minute hand, and the dial is in a very avant-garde. And also, what a very bold decision, and then I'll stop, decision we took is always to write in Russian on the dial. We never write in English on the dial. And we were very criticized for that because people said, in the West, people read pakema. And why do you write сделано в России? You should at least write made in Russia. But our position was, we're very proud to be made in Russia. We're very proud to be a Russian watch. And if you buy something Russian, you don't want on the face of the watch, English language or French language or Chinese language. You want something that's authentic. And that's why we decided, so even the watches that we sell outside Russia the logo is always written in Russia. Made in Russia is always written "Сделано в России." It's always written in Russia on the dial of the watch. And people begin to appreciate that. And this makes Raketa a very authentic brand, very proud of its Russian origins. And this Leopard watch consecrates kind of these 10 years of very hard work to try to prove that Russian watches are interesting. And yeah. And if all of you, I invite all of you to come and visit the manufacturer. It's in Petersburg. It's very interesting. As a manufacturer in itself and as a watch manufacturer, you will see things that you will never see anywhere else, because Swiss manufacturers would never let you in. You could never visit Rolex. We have 2 guides who speak English and Russian, obviously. And they will show you everything, and it's really interesting. We have a museum. We show you the assembly, the production. It's just incredibly interesting. So I could go on for hours because I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm super happy to have the opportunity to share my passion. But I don't know if I think I've said quite enough, and I'm more than willing now to answer questions, if there are any.
If you close the slide, the slide.
Yes,
sharing.
yes.
Very good. Thank you, David. Appreciate it very much. Very interesting. And you will be getting a visit from me. I'm not quite sure when I'm going to come visit your factory, but I will come visit it. So very interested in seeing it. So that's wonderful. For the people we have on board with us this evening, I'm going to turn it into the gallery view, and hopefully I'll be able to see you. Does anybody want to raise their hand and ask David a question? Anybody got a question for David?
Yeah.
Randall.
I've got 15 questions.
We'll just ask one first.
I have too many questions, so I don't know where to start. The first question that came to my mind is, this brand was launched in 1961, but the factory was launched in almost 300 years ago. Were there brands, was it manufacturing branded watches before Raketa?
No, it all started when, Peter the Great was incredibly curious. And when he was young, he organized what they call a big tour of Europe. So he went to France, to Holland, to England. And he was fascinated by what he saw, and in particular by the stone objects, vases or mosaics or, columns made out of stone that he saw. And when he came back to St. Petersburg, he said, I want my own stone cutting, what they call lapidary manufacture. So it all started as a stone cutting factory that made incredibly beautiful objects out of precious and semi-precious stones. And this factory very quickly became the biggest and most famous stone cutting factory in the world at that time, because Russian emperors, and especially empresses like Catherine the Great, they were fascinated by stones, and they sent a lot of workers from the factory on field expeditions in the Ural and Altai, where they discovered a lot of minerals. And I'll make the story super short. When the revolution occurred in 1917, the demand for luxury objects made out of semi-precious and precious stones disappeared. The last big monumental orders that the factory did were the ruby stars on the Kremlin towers, the mausoleum of Lenin, that was made at the factory. And then they decided, they had to think, how can we adapt to the Soviet Union economy? We know how to make stones. So they decided to do ruby stones for the Soviet watch industry, because in every mechanical movement, you have ruby stones. So I have on my wrist 24 ruby stones. So they started making ruby stones for the Soviet watch industry. Then gradually they started making mechanical movements. Then in 45, they started making Победа watches, the brand Победа, which means victory. And then in 61, they switched to the Raketa brand. So gradually this stone cutting factory became a watchmaking factory. And the link between Peter the Great and us today are stones. We continue using in every single watch 24 ruby stones in our watches. And next year, we will celebrate the 300th anniversary of the manufacture. So it's the oldest Russian company that still exists.
Very good. Thank you, David. And Natalia, you had a question? Unmute yourself, please.
No, thanks. It was very interesting, especially for a person living in Switzerland, comparison to Swiss industry.
Natalia?
Yeah, thank you very much. I have some questions. Number one, when the leather strap gets worn off, is it possible to buy another strap?
Of course, of course. Of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Question number two, are your designers, or is your designer a Russian specialist?
Of course, we have a team of designers, and we do all of our designs in-house.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
It
you.
was so interesting. Thanks.
One second, Kai. Gabriella, you had your hand up?
Thank you. I have three questions. At first, thank you very much. It was really amazing to hear this presentation. You mentioned in the beginning a negative propaganda. From which side does this negative propaganda came on or arise?
It came from the Russians themselves.
Okay.
Russians criticized us because it was very strange, very strange. As I said, Russians are very patriotic. They love their country usually, but it was a time when they were still at the same. They have a complex of inferiority and superiority. So they were very patriotic, but at the same time ashamed of their country. And they couldn't believe that a Russian watch could cost more than 5,000 rubles. They said it's impossible. Russian watches 5,000 rubles maximum. So, and secondly, we were also criticized because I'm not Russian, and we got a lot of criticism from Russians saying, it's not a Russian factory anymore because the director is English, and but this, thank God, has changed, and now people accept what we do, and they're very happy and proud of what we do. But that was at the beginning.
Yeah, very good. So the second question is, you said you sold around 600 pieces. To whom did you sell? To Russians or abroad?
50-50. I didn't say 600. I said we less than that. But we sell the Leopard watch was sold 50% in Russia and 50% outside Russia.
Okay.
And we obtained a lot of international press about the watch. So basically, there is a lot of interest outside Russia for what we do. It's a very niche brand, authentic, that stands out from the crowd. And basically, if you go to a dinner party and you wear a Raketa watch that goes counterclockwise, like mine, people kind of notice your watch and they start asking, hey, what are you wearing on the wrist? And then you say it's a Russian watch, and then you say it's manufactured, and then you say it's counterclockwise, and people say, hey, can I have a look at it? And basically, anyone who wears a Raketa watch can talk about his watch for at least 5 minutes, because the storytelling is very strong, which is not always the case when you wear other brands. And this is what, so basically, when you buy a Raketa watch, you stand out from the crowd quite easily.
Oh, great. May I add a third question and last question? In the meantime, Russia should have noticed that it's really something, it's a brand made in Russia. Do you get any support, or what is the access, Dostуп, of the Russian side to your factory?
We don't get any support in particular from the government. But maybe it's
not financial, but logistic, or just that they say, oh, that's great, and that is enough, that is ours. Do they identify in the meantime with it?
Oh yes, I mean, now, as I said, the majority of our buyers in Russia are Russians. And we have a lot of Russians who buy who buy and rebuy and come back and buy again, buy all of our collection. And now we have a lot of positive and comments on the social media. And the Russian press talks about us, and the Russian television comes and films our factory. So basically, Russians now understand what we do, and Russians are in particular very proud that our Russian watches are sold outside Russia. For example, our watches are present in 3 stores in Paris, right in the center of Paris, and they're super proud. So basically, Russians are very proud that foreigners buy Russian watches. And this is also a paradox that the more we sell outside Russia, the more we will sell in Russia. The more Russians will see that Russian watches are sold in Paris or in London or outside or in Dubai or whatever, the more they'll start being interested in our watches in Russia.
Very good. Thank you, David.
you.
Kai, you had a question?
Yes, so thank you. A very nice presentation. And meanwhile, I also looked up your LinkedIn page, and you write as your job title, biggest fan. So is it also on your business card?
No, the reason I wrote business fan is because at the beginning I wrote CEO or managing director, but it looks very formal, and I don't see myself, CEO. It looks very much like CEO of a corporation. Raketa is, I don't see Raketa as a business. It's not a business. It's more about values and culture, and we see ourselves more like the Bolshoi Theater than a company that, if I wanted to be rich, I would do something else. This is not about, it took me, after 2 years, I understood that I would never become rich with Raketa. It's more about emotions, passions. So a CEO is really not the right term to define myself. So that's why I changed my profile to the biggest fan of Raketa, instead of saying managing director or CEO. It didn't look right.
And then we have our rotary symbol. It looks also like a mechanical part.
Yes, I noticed.
And I was wondering, would it be possible, like from St. Petersburg, to make maybe a rotary watch sometime?
We would be very proud to do that, and we do that. We do a lot of individualized watches for Russian companies, Gazprom, Sberbank. We can print something on the dial. We can print something on the mechanical movement in the back. There are a number of ways of making the watch special for a company or for a club or a football club. Of course, we can do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Kai. All right, Rami, I got a question. Rami?
Yes, David, thank you. I just want to let you know that I love watches. I always have 3 people holding me whenever there is a store by, so that I don't go inside and go crazy. So I have 2 questions. One, what's the most expensive watch you have? 2, you said that it was very hard to change the mindset of the Russians, and you've persisted through from the beginning till you became, till you got the brand right. So what would you do differently right now after this experience to make it faster next time? Thank you.
We did a lot of mistakes. We did a lot of mistakes in terms of design. It took us a lot of time to understand what were the codes of Raketa. For example, at the beginning, we tried to copy Swiss design, very classic watches with straight hands, with 12 hours and nothing special. And it took us a lot of time to understand that if we try to copy the Swiss in terms of design, we will lose, because the Swiss are much stronger than us in that kind of design. So all of our watches are very unusual watches. They have a 0 instead of a 12. Everyone has straight hands. We have triangular hands or round hands. Everyone goes this side. We go counterclockwise. Everyone has 12 hours. We have 24 hours, and so on, so on. So we tried to have very, to be very faithful, basically to stick to very Raketa design and not try to copy other people. And also we decided, at the beginning, we did also quartz Raketa watches, because we thought, we should also have a collection of quartz watches. We stopped that. So basically, it took us a lot of time to understand the codes and the positioning of the brand. And these are the kinds of mistakes that I would love not to repeat. But unfortunately, we lost but it's also good. And we did also a lot of mistakes in the production. We bought machines from Switzerland that we still never used because the truth is Soviet machines are very, very good. But on the other hand, to reposition a brand, you should never go too quickly. And maybe it's a good thing that it took us such a long time, because you can say that you are luxury, but the market has to accept it, and that takes a lot of time. And in terms of the most expensive watch, I would say that the Leopard is clearly one of the most expensive watches. All of our watches turn around from 45,000 rubles to 115,000 rubles. The Malevich is 98,000 rubles. The Leopard is 94,000 rubles.
Okay, very good. I think Antonina, you had a question.
It is not a question, it's more comment to Gabriel's question. Russian people have incredible potential, combined talent, etc., etc., combined with deeply incorporated lack of self-confidence. I'm trying to understand why it happened, but it definitely has some historical roots. So this is my comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Antonina. Okay, we have time for one last question if you have one. Walter? Okay, Walter, last question.
There we go. Thank you very much, President Michael. Thank you very much, David, for this interesting insight. And probably one of the most important questions, which is not mine, but which came out of the chat from Daniel Fuchs, who's also from St. Petersburg, is an Austrian guy who asks, is there an outlet store at the production line where you get these watches cheaper? Usually one of Germany's classical questions. Or in Chinese, you might know this from China, where you've been bringing tourists to the production lines.
Well, we have a store at the factory, yes, of course, where you can find all of the collection. And it's very interesting when you visit the factory, you understand how it's made, and then you come to the store, and if you say that you know me, they might give you little discounts. You can just refer to me.
Okay, no.
Okay.
Cheers.
Right.
Thank you very much for this insight.
Thank you, David, very much. For all of us, let's give David a warm round of applause, please, for all of his efforts. Thank you, David. Very, very good. And one of the things that I think that's most amazing about what you had to say this evening is that you were a foreigner, and you came here and you helped resurrect something that was Russian. And I know myself, being here for 15 years and working with several large Russian companies, that it's the feeling of being an outsider, but coming in and having people work with you who have the skills, who have the talents, who can do it. It's very, very rewarding, feels wonderful. The fact that they'll listen to you and follow you a little bit, and then they go do the right thing. I'm sure you experience the same thing, the feeling of joy and happiness watching these Russians become proud doing what they were able to do. So it's a good feeling. So
thank you very much.
I will come visit you for sure. Okay. Thank you, David. We're going to continue on with the rest of the things that we have in our meeting. If I can get to my next slide here. 1 second. Where am I here? All right.
So I will say goodbye to you then.
Are you leaving us? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming by tonight. Okay. We sent out a message last week with our Christmas card and information about our project that we started. What used to be the old Romanov Center is now called the Children Rehabilitation Center. To make us not be so tongue-tied and talk so long, we decided to call it the CRC, the Children's Rehabilitation Center, so it's easier when we're talking about it. We had a very, very good response from some other folks who are not online tonight, but they have been online, and some of you have seen them before. We have got clubs now who are asking us about donations for other children to sponsor them. They're also asking us if we're going to form a global grant. We don't know yet, but there are people who want to contribute to a global grant if we're going to do that. So we are finding out that this idea of helping the Children's Rehabilitation Center is being welcomed by other people around the world in other countries, especially Canada and the United States. So we will be pursuing that, finding other children, and then deciding what we want to do go forward. Right now, it's too quick for us. We're not quite ready to grasp it, but we have found very, very positive results. And we will again this week, when we send out our newsletter, we will send out more information about the CRC and what we're doing. But we want to thank everybody, people on the screen here, as well as other people who visited us. Thank you very much for your inputs. The first child has already been taken care of, thanks to Antonina, who you see on the screen here this evening. She made a donation, and the Moscow International Club plus our club got together and were able to do that. So the first one's done, and now we're going to work on another one. And there may be a lot more. We're not sure. This is an awful big project. One second, Andres. It's an awful big project for us to take on, to do a global grant for this with such a small club that we have. But we may try it. We may go there. So we may be going in that direction. But we've had a very, very positive to our first request from. Yes, Andres.
Hello, everybody. I've been asked by Makar to say thank you to all who made it possible for him to continue his way into a normal walking life. Thank you, Antonina. I've been in contact with the Rotary Club in Moscow. We found a way how the money transfer can be organized. I know that the CRC is in need of further support. So President Michael, if I would not put the foot on the brake, I would like to see the foot on the acceleration pedal. So if you have the contacts, they are willing to donate. I'm more than happy to help and to support and to forward their donations to the CRC. The kids, it's what it's needed. They need our help.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andres. Thank you very much. When I was younger, in my 20s, I did nothing but step on the gas pedal. There was no brake pedal, and I went as fast as I could possibly go. At my current age, I want to go steady, but I don't want to stop. So we will be moving forward. I just want to make sure we got our right things in place as we move forward to continue, because going for a large global grant is an awful lot of work. So we'll see. Yes, Gabriella, you had a comment, please.
Thank you so much. I want to say that I'm really grateful to Andreas Bohne that he takes up the function to be the partner for people from other clubs, Rotary clubs, who are ready to contribute to it. Last Saturday, I participated in the German-Russian ICC, and there were several of them that said, oh, it's really a very good project, and we are ready to pay for it, and we are ready also to speak in our clubs with it. So it's very good. And the only question was, how can we make secure that the financing is, well, the financing is, yeah. This is, what can we do? There is this RDG, so you can pay it to Rotary, but what can we do, because our club still is not registered. But they found a way how to do it, and thank you again to Andreas, take it on and managing it. So I think we will have good support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriela, for this positive feedback. This is encouraging me, and I'm more than happy to support every club and every personal member who wants to make a donation. And I, with my name and my person, stand there for that it has been used in the way we all think it should be used.
Right. And Gabriella, we have a small team here, but we do talk and we do get things done. And maybe because it's small, we get things done a little bit quicker and a little bit more efficient. But with Randall's effort and Andreas' effort and the rest of our members in our club, we're all eager to see this happen. It's just that I want to be a little bit cautious on global grants. We did do one 6 years ago, and it was a lot of work, a lot of money. And at that time, we had to have somebody else actually do the grant, as you know. And we carried it out here, but basically somebody else actually made the submission. I wrote the proposal and it got approved and everything went through. It does take a lot of work. And I just want to make sure that we're going on a regular, steady pace, not running too fast. and not stubbing our toe, because we're still a small club and we still need support. Yes, Gabriella, one last comment?
Yes, I didn't think of a global grant, but I thought of how to make it. For example, you take one child and to support it, or you share it this way. I think this is a good way to do it.
Right, we understand that, and that's our plan for right now. Right now, one child at a time, pay for a child and help a child, one child at a time. But we have people who are asking us, two different clubs right now, two different organizations right now in Rotary have already talked to us about and asking me if I'm going to do a global grant, because they're ready to put $30,000 into it tomorrow. So I have to be a little bit careful about that. Our idea right now is one child at a time, but we don't want to close the door on possibility of helping a whole lot more. So we just got to look at it very, very carefully. So I was shocked when I got the emails by the folks and the response. It was a very positive response. We will be sending that same letter out again this week to same people again, getting more audiences. I'm putting it on Facebook and LinkedIn and other places also. So we will get the information out and we'll see what comes out of it. But right now, everything is positive. We've heard no negative about it from anybody. Not from the CRC, certainly not from the little child that we helped, but nobody has given us anything negative or gave us anything to be worried about. All they've been doing is giving us positive feedback. So just as you mentioned with your ICC club you met there, people are talking positive about it. So now we just need to figure out how to go forward and do that. We'll work it out. And over these holidays, we're talking frequently among ourselves, and we will come up with a plan or a method and way of getting it done. So we appreciate your help continuously, all of you. Everybody on the screen has been helping. So we appreciate that very, very much. That's the only project we have right now, although there are other clubs who are talking to us. The Moscow International Club is talking to us about a project. We have money in reserve already put aside to go to Shanghai whenever we find out that the Shanghai get their global grant paperwork finished. We're going to be helping them with their holes in the heart. What's it called, Randall, the name for that when disease with the hole in the heart?
Gift of life.
That's the project is called Gift of Life. But what's the disease called? Is the problem?
It's just, it is a hole in the heart. So it's congenital heart disease.
Congenital, that's right. I couldn't think of the word. Congenital heart disease. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of the word. So they're going forward for the 13th, I think 13th year or 13th project on that. And we've already committed to that. So we're just holding that in reserve until we're ready to send it forward. So that's about all we have as far as projects right now. Does anybody else have any questions about projects before I move on to the next item? We got about another 10 minutes, we'll be done. Anybody else have anything on projects? Nothing. I see, hold on, Kai, 1 second. Just above you, I see Natalia is smiling from ear to ear, but I'm not sure what she's thinking.
Micro.
1 second. Microphone, please, Natalia.
I'm sorry. I was looking at Andreas' child and
okay.
smiling because he's chewing something and he looks sweet and cute.
He is. He is sweet. I've been over his house and met him several times. He's a very well, what you want to call, accomplished young man. Can do many, many, many things.
Thank you, Natalie. We are eating some grapes, sweet grapes.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Kai, you had a comment before we close, Kai?
Yes, so like it builds up on the presentation we had today, again, also to Randall and to you. Thank you for organizing such things. In German, we have a term taken from French. It's a fixe idee, une idée fixe. And it means you get some very quick ideas, maybe a bad one, but you somehow get attached to it. And so I have such a feeling with this watch story. So maybe it could be indeed that we think of a project like a Rotary watch and that we can combine it with a donation.
You have to be careful. You have to be careful. The Rotary already has watches. They've already got the trademark. Right, the Rotary wheel is already trademarked, and they won't let anybody else do that already. It's already been trademarked, and they already got their own watches.
Michael, if we wanted to license, we could license. It's just
Yeah,
you have
that's
to
right.
pay a
You've got-
license fee.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay a license fee. I don't think Kai got enough money in his back pocket to pay for a license fee.
Or we
But,
can make a license per
No,
item or
no, a
something.
license fee is just, no, the license fee is $100 and then it's a percentage of the selling price.
Yeah, I
But you
think
have to be,
why
you have to
not,
be a legal entity in order to do that, and we're
That
not.
might
so
be
that's a
fun,
challenge.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more complicated than what you're asking, Kai, but not a bad idea. If it can be done or could be done, that might be a great idea, but I think it would be quite complicated and quite different. I can make that your project. If you'd like to take that on as a project, you're more than welcome to run with that if you want to.
Yeah.
You have to do all the homework.
Understood. So, as I said, that's this idea fix, but I think it will develop something.
My thoughts were that my recommendation to David, and that when I see him, what I'm going to tell him next is that I have two ideas for him. One, I can get him metal from Raketa Aviation, who made the first fighter jets for Russia.
Wow.
I can get metal from them. That's not a problem. I know them very well. And the other thing is, what about the space program? He could go down and get some piece of metal off of something off the space program and make a watch from the space program. So there's two more opportunities, not only submarines, but possibly spaceships and aircraft. So
yeah, we had this speaker from Canadian Space Force, how you call it.
how about Nitsi? How about Nitsi Tagil? Nitsi Tagil has a tank factory. Go to Nitsi Tagil and get a Russian tank factory and get a piece of metal off the Russian tank and make a tank watch. These are all possibilities, lots of ideas. So it'll be interesting to go see him and talk to him. I'm going to try and do that over the holidays now and see when I can get by to see him, now that I know he speaks English well. So
are we not an unpolitical club? When you're talking about tanks, are we not an unpolitical club? And you're talking about tanks and missiles and blah, blah, blah.
We were just talking about submarines, and we're talking about a company that does this with military hardware. So I'm just making there's suggestions of lots of other things that can be done. You can make it out of American aircraft. I don't care. It's just the idea that if from the Russian side, there's many opportunities. There's many pieces of expertise inside Russia that can be exposed and used and increase the pride and so forth of Russians. And when they know that other people are trying to help them do that, just like when I work with the railroad, the feedback we get is really super. I mean, they're really, really appreciative when you can show them how to use their own talents and then they do well. That's really, really great. Okay, nothing else on projects. We're going to move on. I got the next slide here. Whoops, where'd I go? I lost my slide. 1 second here. All right, wrong one. All right. Nope, still not right one. That's the Children's Center. One more, Michael. One more. One more. All right, next week we will have Deepak Justin. Deepak Justin is a distinguished Toastmaster. I've known him now for about 6 months and worked 2 different small projects with him. He's a very, very dynamic speaker. And as Randall mentioned at the opening, he has a few videos out on YouTube and so forth that you can go see with Deepak Justin. And I think you will enjoy him a lot. Surprisingly, he's going to be talking about the title of his presentation is Service Before Self. I got some inside information. I won't give it away as a secret the way he's going to deliver it, but it's got a little bit of a twist on service. But he is going to be a dynamic speaker, and I'm sure we're going to have a good time with him next week. We're going to have to try to bring as many people on board as we can next week because he is very, very good. And we'd like to thank again, Antonina, with your help of getting Wilkerson to come on the January 13th. That's going to be very, very nice. Yeah, no, you participated. You gave us the idea. We just went forward and made it happen, but you did all the work. We appreciate your input on that. Thank you very, very much. And we were supposed to have our Christmas party on the 23rd. A few of us had some complications and that's not possible. So we're going to try and have it on the 21st. The time and location is not solidified yet. So we still have to work on that. It looks like the 21st, but we haven't nailed it yet. So we're still working on that. And with that, that brings me to a close. Now, What other comments, what other things would you like to talk about? We got about 5 more minutes. Anybody have anything they'd like to share with us? Anyone have anything they want to share with us? Yes, no, maybe? Nancy, you've been very quiet tonight. You haven't said anything the whole night.
I'm the guest.
Hey, you're a guest, but that's beside the point. That's beside the point.
It was an amazing presentation, and I just enjoyed your speakers so much that it's nice to just come and sit and listen and absorb. It's been wonderful being attached to your club. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you anytime, and we've had sometimes up to 30 and 40 people, and they just enjoy themselves. Randall has a question for you. Randall?
I have no question. I was just putting thumbs up, so we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay, I thought you had a question. Hello, Howard. How long have you been on board?
Let me unmute myself, Michael. I'm very sorry I came in so late. I missed the program, but I know you, Randall videos these things and you put them in some kind of time capsule that we can come back to and pick up on. I presume it was the submarine watch fellow that you advertised, and it seemed to me.
Howard, it was amazing, but we'll get something up in a couple of days.
Right.
Well, thank you, Randall. And well, I would like to join Nancy in saying that I appreciate being invited to the club meeting, becoming part of your program. And I just would like to, if you'll forgive me, a personal salutation to a great friend from many years is Natalia Alexandrovna. I see her beautiful face. Hi, Natalia, how you doing? And with the Neva Club, and we go back maybe almost 30 years, and Rotary is so well kept alive by people like this international club and the Neva Club and the White Knights, and I'm just happy to be part of it. And thank you all for being here as well. So, Michael,
thank you, Howard. Appreciate it. But I don't think Natalia is old enough to have been a Rotarian for 30 years. So she's still a young lady yet. So we gotta watch out for those comments.
High school. She was a Rotaractor at the time.
Oh, Rotaract 30 years ago. Now that I might believe she was a Rotaract 30 years ago.
Okay, may I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank Howard for putting a Rotary bench.
Oh.
He is one of the contributors. Thank you so much, Howard. Happy to see you.
Sudavolsvium. It was my pleasure. And thank you, Randall, for getting the program going in the first place. And it's not over yet. With peace pools and park benches, we can have Rotary clubs shaking hands between Russia and the United States and other countries as well. So we're on to some good things here in spite of the pandemic that's eating.
Also, Howard, also something else, because you're a regular member at our meetings. I'd like you to say hello to Rami Saeed, who's on our screen there. Rami just got inducted today as being a Rotarian. He just joined today.
Congratulations. I know they've been working very hard on membership. It seems to me that that you can help do that with some of your contacts there in Saint Petersburg. Yes. And it's a wonderful club, the International Club. They speak English, but occasionally, let's see, David Paruski Toja and Natalia.
Wow, that was impressive.
And I'm sure your Russian is up to a very high standard, Rami. Congratulations.
Hopefully. Thank you.
I don't have to ask Randall, because I already know the answer. He didn't tell me, but I'm sure. I believe that somebody is going to be working on David as a potential member to our organization. If not, we certainly should. I would be surprised if Randall has not already mentioned that to him.
Well, the only challenge is he lives in Moscow, so he comes periodically to St. Petersburg, but he doesn't live here.
But right now he can get online and he can join us now or Moscow and join them.
Yeah, well, Kai, I can second Kai. Kai can go and shake hands with him, have coffee with him, and arm wrestle him. Arm wrestle.
Yeah, Kai's right. Kai meets us every week from Moscow. He's every week up there. So we have a person in Moscow, but I'm going to find out.
I will make an effort. We'll see. Let's see. He's never been asked, I think. This is the thing with Rotary, that you need to be asked to join a club. If Rami didn't, if he wasn't asked to, if he didn't come to our meeting and we didn't ask him, he wouldn't join.
That's right.
So
He
we
wouldn't have
need
known much about it.
everybody actually to bring in more Ramis.
Right.
We need
Well,
more Ramis.
I definitely am going to contact David and find out when he's going to be in town in St. Petersburg, because I would like to go to the factory while he's there between now and the new year sometime and stop by and see him at the factory. So if I find, yeah, I see everybody's raising their hand already. So when I find out that when it is, what day that is or time, a few of us, if we can go, we might go together. So we'll find out. But he was very, very good tonight. I've been very pleased with our level of speakers. I think our speakers all along, the Rotarian speakers we've had, and now an outside speaker, and we're going to have another outside speaker next week, who I already know is a very good speaker. I think you're going to enjoy him a lot. We're doing very, very well. And I mean, not everybody's religious. I want to thank God that we're able to have this club and do the things we are doing, because a year ago, this would have not been imaginable to reach around the world and do all these things that we're doing, but we're able to right now. So we're all very, very lucky at this time of the year. And if you keep the positive attitude I told you about at the beginning of the meeting, remember, nobody can force you to have a negative attitude. That is up to you. You decide if you're going to have a positive day or a negative day. So you keep that mindset being positive with the people around you and the people you work with, your family members and workers.